again, everyone. It's Nikki Batgirl D'Angelo here for another Star Citizen Addicts Anonymous. This is episode 79, getting closer and closer, just about 21 episodes until we reach the big 100. Well, for the last few weeks, I've been complaining that there's not enough to talk about, so I was trying to dissect things and make it easier for us to understand the big things that were being released to us. So we've had some ship updates, we've had some design documents that come out, and that's about it. But this is the way it's been for the last almost 2 years I've been doing Star Citizen Addicts Anonymous. When you get closer to Gamescom, when you get closer to CitizenCon, information just dries up, and you have to make do with what you have. It happens also around the Christmas holiday, because everyone takes off, obviously. With big releases coming in January, February, March, that leaves us with a few months of nothing to talk about. So I've pulled back from doing the weekly shows, stuck with doing the Ben's Days weekly and my thoughts of the game as thoughts would arise, like I did last night. Well, Chris is back and he did a really big show to set us straight on exactly what's going on and how the game is developing. The biggest issue is that the game itself has grown to be vast, and because of the money that they collected, they were able to do things that other games don't do. And he took Mass Effect, which is one of my favorite game series ever, as an example, and how they'll do full motion capture and not performance capture. And the differences are vast, although they're done kind of along the same means. Performance capture captures everything that the actor and actresses are doing. Their facial expressions, their idiosyncrasies, the way they walk, the way they talk, the way they look. And all those things are then put into the game engine. As opposed to full motion capture, or motion capture, where they capture the motion of the actor and the voices are added onto the in-game, I guess you would call it in-game skeletons, in-game characters. So two big differences there, right? In Mass Effect, you get a very generic-looking character that isn't so generic. I mean, I like Shepard, right? But especially Femme Shepard. But it really does not have all those different facial expressions and everything. When you look at what they're doing, it's going to be more along the lines of what you saw in Avatar, but even more so the things that you saw in Planet of the Apes. That is amazing. So because they're falling behind in the FPS, that means that 2.0 has fallen behind. We've talked about this, and that's a big deal. At this point, the FPS was already supposed to be out and probably had one update or at least some patches to make it better. We're going to barely be seeing it in PTU by the time Gamescom comes out, but Gamescom was supposed to be all about multiplayer ships and about the 2.0 reveal and the social module reveal. And that's going to be what they keep it. So that's going to happen, and we're going to have to deal with the FPS coming out in PTU and not being center stage. At the same point, we were already supposed to have certain elements of the Arena Commander module that we were working with at this point, so they can move forward with that and implement whatever we find into 2.0. Well, Chris saw that we were getting antsy and made a decision, and the decision was to break some of those things that were inside of 2.0, or FPS, in the FPS module 1.2, and give them to us in two updates, 1.1.4 and 1.1.5. We already have 1.1.4 out there, and a lot of things are behind the scenes, and they aren't really anything that you could see, but they made it possible for them to drop us 1.1.5. 1.1.5 brings us two playable ships, the Merlin, the Scythe, brings us a unified launcher for the FPS and Arena Commander, and that's amazing because they're starting to bring these pieces together and makes a lot of changes to flight models and damage states and components and a whole bunch of other things. So 1.1.5 is live, and what I've done is I'm putting together little bits and pieces to bring you over the next week, but the first thing I'm going to show you is this, and it's my little preliminary reaction to the Merlin. It's not a review. That'll happen afterwards. So let's go right to that now. Star Citizen continues to grow, and with the advent of the delay of the first-person shooter module, Chris Roberts and company decided to start releasing bits and pieces of the Arena Commander module that were integrated into that so we could get an idea of all the extra work that they've been doing, all the progress they've made over time. Now, I'm walking into this area because in a few short months or maybe a few weeks, this will be the area and the doors that we use to get into the social module, to get into the world beyond. And when 3.0 comes out to integrate all three modules into a living, breathing, dynamic world, we'll be using this area to get there. Walking through here, I put my Constellation Phoenix in front of me because today's video is going to center around what's sitting on the ass end of my Phoenix. My Constellation Phoenix will have an Archimedes personal snub-nosed fighter, but here we see the original model of the Merlin. Let's walk around it for just a few moments. It's long enough to fit a person and a few weapons, and it really is just to help to defend the Phoenix against anybody that might be trying to take it down. So let's go into the Merlin. It just got released in the version 1.1.5 of the PTU and will be out in just about a week or so on the live server. And this is the first time we're seeing the Merlin in, well, I guess you could say in real operation. It's quite a beautiful ship. Now it's fast, it's nimble, and it would be a perfect fighter, but there's some discrepancies in, I should say there's a few changes in the flight model that have all but made this ship useless, and most of the other ships right now. So a lot of that stuff is going to be fixed in time. But just look at it. It's just screaming, I'm a racer. If you put this next to the M50, that's exactly what this would look like. I'm really liking this ship. It kind of reminds me of a spaceship version of a BMW Z3 or Z4. In fact, seeing an origin label on this would feel at home. The heads-up display and the instrument panel are gorgeous, but kind of lacking in the areas that you can't see. The flight model of this ship is amazing, and it's going to be a welcome addition to the ships that we now have in the game. One thing I can say though is that the flight model overall has changed, and we have a sluggish feeling in the heavier ships, and the more and the smaller and less heavy ships are much more nimble now, making them probably a better choice at being a fighter / interceptor. Well, we're going to move over to one of the platforms, go down and take a look at her. So let's go do that now. Auto land proved to be a pain in the butt today, so we're just going to take her down and try to land. There's some, it looks like some of the texturing is floating above, yeah, floating above the platform. And it looks like we have some kind of a bug where we're kind of sitting off to the side. But let's get out and take a look at this baby. She's kind of cute, so let's see what she has on the outside. So they did an amazing job. It kind of looks like an M50 on the back. I wish it had all the texture detailing that the M50 had, or has. Two nice engines over there. Gives you an idea. It might be quick and nimble. It's kind of small. It actually has a look, I said like a Z4 or Z3. It has more of a look like a 1930s air racer. I like how the wings fold up to allow you to put two side by side in something like an Idris or maybe an 890 jump, I hope. Now there is an issue with the boost, and we'll take a look at it inside. And you just looked at a couple of air intakes or fuel intakes below. Now you're looking at what I believe is the cooling area. Yeah, that has to be the coolers to cool the spaceship when it's firing weapons or boost. Just love the nose. Here in the nose you have some of the maneuvering jets. You have M3As, which I do not like at all, and I would replace with the CF007s in a heartbeat. But that's just an amazingly beautiful, although a little bit tilted, spaceship. Kruger have done an amazing job. I wonder how the Archimedes is going to be different from this. Now I did take this through the race course, but about one lap into it, after using boost, it's over. There's still a couple of graphic glitches. Look at that seat. It's gorgeous. It looks like a play seat. But this is what I'm talking about. As you get in, when you get into an M50, it kind of comes around you. You have the instrument panel, and you're got things wrapping around you everywhere. And this is just a little devoid underneath this area. Oh, who cares? It's gorgeous. Let's look down and look up. Oh, who cares? But one thing I will say is that the nose, that long nose, reduces the visibility over the nose incredibly and makes it very hard to use this as a fighter. Well, that is until you realize that the HUD is presenting you everything in front of you and shows you it through the actual instrument panel itself. Let's take a look at this in combat and see what I'm talking about. Alright, here we are, logging into my favorite testing ground, Arena Commander's Vanduul Swarm. Now something like this, I don't expect it to do well. I should say I didn't expect it to do well because this is in the past. I expected it to hold its own though. And immediately, and something I cut out of the video, you find out that using boost of any sort is just it's gonna let you down. They overhauled the boost mechanics in the game, and I think that they went a little bit too aggressive on it. You run out of boost in about 20 to 30 seconds on this, and because there are absolutely no fuel intakes, I mean they show them on it, right? But there are no fuel intakes. You really don't have the ability to regain back boost at all. So once you use it, you're done, which makes it very difficult to fly this thing well. And what I'm going to do in this one is I'm going to try to fly it without boost at all. Now, I learned very quickly when you see him go below my nose, which will happen from time to time, that the HUD is actually showing it holographically appear right in front of me. So it's showing me what's in front of me so I can continue to track and fire, trying to show me slipping. The M3As make this a very difficult, very difficult fighter to get a kill in, but if you can get that minigun on target with the lasers down, you're going to nail it and rip it apart. It's kind of like the miniguns that are on the Aegis Dynamics, the two ships that they have with them, which are the Gladius and the Avenger. So we're able to get a couple good hits on him over here. But you could see it's a constant turning and fighting battle, and without there being any real mechanics in the game to handle gimbaling in a joystick mode, well, there are some, but they're not very good. I still think Elite Dangerous gets gimbaling weapons right. But the AI is so good in this game, it makes it very difficult for you actually to get hits. I'm starting to think that this game is becoming something more like DCS than something like Wing Commander. It's becoming something for only the most skilled and most realism-loving people. I don't see it being as fun as Wing Commander was right now, but I know that will change over time. With the advent of the World Cup for women over the last few weeks, I notice a lot of people watching soccer here in the US. But soccer isn't that big of a game because there's not a lot of scoring in it. And that's something that I think is going to limit our love of this game if they don't do something about it by the time it comes out. And I know that they will. They're going to make it more fun. Right now they're trying to get the mechanics down. So don't let what you see here or what you feel in the PTU or the live server change your mind. I'm sure Chris Roberts is going to make a killer of a game. So what do I think about the P-52 Merlin? Well, my initial reaction to it is, I don't hate it, I don't love it, I don't think it's bad. I have the same reaction that I have for the M50. I don't take my M50 out into Vanduul Swarm. It's just not the place for it. I know there are many people that have done it, and there's videos up on YouTube that show them getting through all 18 levels. But it's not the place for this ship. This ship is meant very basically as a point defense fighter, It's kind of a last resort. You get in the fighter, you break up the formations, and allow your turrets in the Constellation or whatever other ship is going to be the home for this mini fighter, and you let the turrets take out the incoming pirates or incoming Vandal. You'll get a couple of fighters, you'll kill a couple of things. It's almost guaranteed. I got a couple of kills here and probably could have gotten more. But it's not going to be your main line of defense. It's going to be your secondary line of defense. This, I believe, will find its way onto the racetrack. They will fix the boost problem, and it will be a huge competitor to the M50 if they could just do one thing and fix the speed. I got in this thing expecting to zip around and be flying at enormous speeds like you do in the M50, and that just isn't what I got. It's light, it's small, it's nimble, it's not as fast. And that's something that I just kept looking at like, wow, this has to be faster, it has to go. And it didn't. And I'm hoping and praying that CIG takes this ship into that level and makes it a really fast, really fun, really nimble fighter to fly. Those are my initial reactions of the P-52 Merlin. I do not have a Vandal scythe. I wish I had one, but I don't. So you will probably not find a Vandal scythe preliminary preview or review from me unless Ben can hook me up with one for a day. But I hope this P-52 Merlin initial preview is helpful. Remember, this is not a review. They're not done with it. It's going to take some time to balance this ship within the game and to balance the game overall. This is Nikki Batgirl D'Angelo, sending you right back to the rest of the show. All right, I think that was great, right? So the Merlin's in the game if you're a PTU user. Now, for those of you that have data caps, whether you be in another country or one of those wonderfully treated customers of Comcast that have to deal with a 300 gigabyte limit, you can forego the PTU if you want to and just wait for it to hit the live server so you don't have two, make it 25 gig patches to download. That would be 50 gigs of your 300 gigabyte limit if you're a Comcast user. I'm liking where they're going. Boost kind of worries me, especially on something like the P-52 Merlin, which is supposed to be a racer also, right? That's kind of sort of what it looks like and what you can do, but because boost runs out so fast, I think racing is going to stink until they fix boost back to the way it was. But I'm always willing to sit there with an open mind and let the boost go its own way and see how other people feel before I commit to a decision on that. Personally, I've tried to race with the P-52. I've tried to fly in Vandal Swarm, and although I know some of you who are amazing pilots are having a great time in it, I didn't have a wonderful time. I love the flight model of the P-52, but to me, it just doesn't compare to my Gladius. And honestly, the Gladius is a fighter. Maybe that's why it doesn't, but I'm still going to stick to my Gladius. But at least I know that I have a formidable ship in the form of the Archimedes, the big brother to the P-52 Merlin, protecting my Constellation Phoenix. And I hope that somebody definitely better than me is going to be flying it when I need protecting. All right, so those are the big things that are happening this week. Over the next week, they're going to push 1.1.5 live. We're going to get some more interviews, some more talk about how components are changing, and that's where we are. I think these small updates that I'm doing with SCAA are going to make a lot more sense as we get closer and closer to Gamescom, so I'm going to keep it at that. I want to thank all of those that watch, listen, contribute, become patrons at Patreon, patreon.com/Batgirl, and just the whole general public that has been watching me for the last 2 years. I think these shorter shows are going to make a lot more impact on you because the longer shows, let me tell you, I went back and started watching some of them and I cured my insomnia. I'm sorry about that, folks, and I have to apologize. So let's cut out of here right now and look for a couple of more shows to come out this week, specifically Ben's Day. And one of my shows has already aired, and that should be State of the Game, which should have come out yesterday. So all I got for you this week. I'll hit you again next week or sooner if more information arises. Thank you all for watching and listening, and you all be safe out there, and I'll talk to you soon. P.S. First outfit picked out by my wardrobe consultant. What do you think? It's missing some accessories, some cool sci-fi earrings and some gloves and stuff like that, and a belt, but this is it. It's pretty cool, right? Well, anyway, that's all I got for you. Again, like I said, be safe out there. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.